صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم ابسط علينا رحمتك وانشر علينا من حكمتك وافتح لنا فتوح العارفين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم من يا رب العالمين. To ask, is it live already? Are you fasting? You seem like it. Yeah, he looks tired. We can start? Okay. Now, Bismillah. For those who were available last week, do you remember what we mentioned? Remember what we mentioned? We said Yusuf alayhi salam is the son of Yaqub alayhi salam. Yaqub is the son of Ishaq alayhi salam. Ishaq is the son of? How does Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam relate to Yusuf alayhi salam by lineage? Why? Through? Barakallahu feekum. And Ismail and Ishaq, they are brothers. Okay? That's one side of how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam relates to Yusuf alayhi salam. Another way that Yusuf alayhi salam relates to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Rasulullah relates to Yusuf alayhi salam is how? Through the what? The experiences of life. Barakallahu feekum. The experiences that they go through. But little did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam know that he would lead the same life as his brother Yusuf alayhi salam. Remember? We said that. Another thing that we mentioned, we said that this surah, if you look at it in a seerah angle, you notice that the surah in itself is a what? Is a map for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life. Do you remember that? Clearly. That's number 2. Number 3, what we mentioned is that the Sahabas wanted a story after listening to what is halal, what is haram. Not even halal and haram, but majority of the verses that were being revealed were related to what? Worshipping Allah alone and the oneness of Allah. Remember? And in Mecca, there were so many storytellers. But Rasulullah was not a storyteller. And he's a man that was not able to write or read, illiterate basically. And this was through the hikmah of Allah, Allah's own wisdom. If the Messenger ﷺ was able to write and read, even us today would have claimed that maybe he wrote these words by himself. That's why you notice the Torah, the Bible, all of them, you have Old Testament, New Testament, this and that, these scrolls. Why? Because the messengers that they had these sent to them, there were others that were knowledgeable at their time, not more than the messengers. There's no one that is knowledgeable than a Rasul or Nabi. Bear that in mind. There is no one that is knowledgeable than a messenger or a prophet. No one can be. It's impossible because they have a direct connection with Allah. That's how it is. And every single knowledge that you find on earth belongs to whom? Allah. La ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana. Adam alayhi salam, before him coming to life, what did the angel say? We don't have any knowledge except for the knowledge that you have. So those were among the few of what we mentioned. But something that we didn't mention, which we're going to cover today, inshallah, we said that we're going to cover these verses in sections. We're not going to cover them at once. And yet we're not going to go into the seerah until we reach to a point where we need the seerah then. So that you can reflect. You can't reflect on something if you don't have a background. Something that you and I need to understand. For people that have entered into the knowledge world, they become more academic. So when they explain, sometimes they forget themselves and believe that everyone else is at their level. But subhanallah, the reality is that when you are talking to others, maybe that person is not at the level that you are. That you need to first of all explain something and then try to elaborate it through other means, like that. So I cannot use the seerah without explaining the verses of Surah Yusuf first and then combine the seerah with it. If I tell you right now how Rasulullah ﷺ relates to Yusuf alayhi salam, majority of us would only relate to the little of what we covered last week. But in order for us to understand that relation in between, we need to cover section by section and then bring the seerah together. That's how when you combine the seerah with the surah, it's easy for you to understand, oh, so Yusuf alayhi salam went through this, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went through this, and the verses with the seerah, if you combine them, you have this beautiful combination. That's what you get. So I want you to look at it this way. parts that you're going to bring them together, inshallah. But, however, what I really love about this surah particularly, sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He starts a surah, He never comes with an introduction. He goes to the main point straight away. How many of you have gone to university? Many of you. You've been to A-levels as well, isn't it? You've been to school, you finished your primary, secondary as well. You remember when you were writing a paper? When you normally write a paper, there's an introduction, and that introduction has a thesis, isn't it? Then you have a main body, and then you have conclusion. We all agree? Now let me tell you, last week what we covered was literally the introduction, the opening pieces of the surah. That's it. Alif Lam Mim Ra, Tilka Ayatul Kitab al-Mubin, Inna anzalnahu Qur'anan Arabiyyan la'allakum ta'qilun. Simple. It's finished. That's where we stopped. Allah opened it with an introduction, a very general and a generic introduction, which we already know. But Allah was referring to something. Before man literally understand, they are introduced to something, you need to give them a statement that will catch their ears and their attention. And Allah decided to use this as a method. He started with the verse, Inna anzalnahu Qur'anan Arabiyyan la'allakum ta'qilun, after Alif Lam Ra and that. To the Arabs, those who are literally, they were born like that. They speak the language of the Qur'an. Naturally, they speak this language. Not you and I, that we need to study sarf, we need to study nahaw, we need to study adab, we need to study balagha, and then we need to study other subjects until we come to understand the Qur'an. How many subjects until you understand the Qur'an? I promise you, at the bare minimum, 15. 15. Al-Arabiyyah tanqasimu ila 12 aqsam. Arabic divides to 12 subjects, simply put. In order to understand the Qur'an, you must be very good at each one of them. And then you come to the other 3 sciences that relate to the Qur'an in itself, and one of them is hadith, and another one is understanding Qur'an in itself, so that you can do a tafsir of Qur'an with Qur'an. And then you need another science, which is usul, the fundamentals of the Qur'an itself, asbabun nuzul and all of that. And even 15 is an understatement, I'm being honest. What we are doing right now, I'm merely a student of knowledge just quoting from the books, I'm being honest. So if you find something new, it's not new. The ulama have already done the work. Alright? That's my humble request to you. Don't look at me as a sheikh, look at me as a student of knowledge. I'm over here just quoting to you what is provided in the books, inshallah. The Arabs, when they hear Alif Lam Ra, it's not common to them. The first thing they start questioning is, what happened? What language is this? It's like someone today, as we speak, a khutbah starts, and then when I start the khutbah, rather than coming with the formalities of a khutbah, I'll come with a different way, different method of delivering the khutbah. Even a person that's busy with whatever they have, they'll let go of what they have. They'll start thinking, what happened with the khatib today? But actually, there's a main statement that's being placed so that you can pay attention. And Allah did that. And then He said that I'm going to reveal verses that are in the language that you can relate to, which were the Arabs then. But this language is for us as well, not only for them alone. Hence the Qur'an is the last miracle that would exist on earth, not only for the messenger, but for Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, let alone the other miracles that we have, which man can hold on to the end of times. That's the fact. Because I'll tell you this, simple example. How many of us memorize Qur'an and we don't even understand it? Many of our children do so. I memorized it when I didn't even understand a word of the Qur'an. But Allah promised that as long as this Qur'an, He's going to preserve it, it's going to be the miracle of man. They would understand, they would keep this book within their chest without them realizing. There is no book that is memorized on this earth compared to the Qur'an. Ask a priest, ask even a rahib from the Judaism religion, you will find that majority of them have not memorized their own books, nor their scrolls. But majority of us have memorized the Qur'an. We have more than 1 million hufaz. Allahu Akbar. That's the beauty of this Qur'an. That's why it's a miracle in itself. I'll tell you what my son told me. A few days ago, he was reading a Harry Potter book. I told him, read some Qur'an. It's Ramadan. Instead of reading Harry Potter. He told me, Baba, look, I can read only a few pages in the Qur'an, until I get tired. But I can read so much of Harry Potter. The difference is because I understand Harry Potter, but I don't understand the Quran. Is that something which he lost his manners? No. It's a fact. He does not understand what he's reading. Yet he doesn't see the enjoyment within it. So when that child is growing up, you need to look for other means for them to love the Quran. Because if you want them to understand the Quran, I will tell you it's merely impossible. Even Arabs of today, the language they speak is not Quran. It's only lahajat that you find out there. It's not pure Arabic. Because of colonization and the shifting of powers and everything, Arabic in itself is mixed. Go to Morocco today, they don't speak pure Arabic unless it's mixed with French. You go to other parts of the Gulf, you notice that the Arabic is mixed with other types of impacts that they've had from colonialism and that. So you notice that the Quran, for it to be preserved, Allah wanted it to be memorized and kept in the chests of men. And beyond that, then that's when people come to understand it. Okay, we've set that down. Now Allah, after the introduction, He provides us the entire thesis of the what? Of the story. When you provide a thesis normally, that thesis covers the entire paper, right? That this paper is going to cover point 1, point 2, point 3, A, B, and C like that. So Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, when He was providing this second piece of the Quran, second puzzle, He was laying down the foundation of the whole surah, that this whole surah is only going to cover these pieces that we need. This is how it starts. إذ قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبت إني رأيت أحد عشر كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيدوا لك كيدا إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين وكذلك يجتبيك ربك ويعلمك من تأويل الأحاديث ويتم نعمته عليك وعلى آل يعقوب كما أتمها على أبويك من قبل إبراهيم وإسحاق إن ربك عليم حكيم. We're going to stop there. Only 3 verses. خلاص. We're finished with that. Today we're only going to cover those and hopefully we finish. So bear with me inshallah ta'ala. إذ قال يوسف لأبيه. Some ulama, they say that إذ over here means أذكر. If you read in Tafsir ibn Juzay, it says that إذ means أذكر, mention. But إذ is only two letters, not only 2 words. It's literally 2 letters. So majority of the times when you see that Allah says وَإِذْ قَالَ وَإِذْ قَالَ وَإِذْ قَالَ, remember that it means consider, remember basically, pay attention on this case. Alright? That's how the Quran, because if you and I use إِذْ, we don't use it the way the Quran uses it. We use it for providing a condition. There's something in the Arabic language, if you read in Al-Ajrumiyah, you notice that إِذْ is among the tools of providing a condition. If one does this, then fulan will do this. If this happens, then this is going to happen. The condition of that happening, this has to take place. The condition of this happening, that has to take place. Understood? Simply put. But the Quran doesn't use it in that manner. The Quran uses it in a manner of reminding us, so that we can have it as a reminder. So Allah was trying to provide to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam knowledge of the unseen, which he had no idea of, according to what He told him in the previous surah. We mentioned that in the previous surah, the last verse that Allah mentions, He talks about the unseen knowledge, the unseen world. And the first thing that Allah does, He starts talking about what? The unseen knowledge which He provides to Rasulullah in Surah Yusuf. So He begins by telling him, look, this is knowledge that you had no idea of. وَإِن كُنْتَ مِن قَبْلِهِ لَمِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. You are among those who had no idea of this knowledge. The word ghafil can be used as the meaning of being heedless, careless, but at the same time meaning ignorant. And an ignorant person, that's not an abuse actually. It depends on how someone uses it actually. If a friend is literally, if someone using it against you while they're angry, then definitely not. They are abusing you and accusing you, of course. Like in majority of us, myself, even the ulama, the greatest of scholars, they still claim that they are ignorant. Ignorance meaning having no knowledge of something. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that you are dumb, you don't know anything. Or maybe you don't have an intellect. That's not what it means. It means you don't have knowledge of what you cannot fathom. It's like today. We are here learning, but then there's something that you don't know, no matter how much you try. It's like, for example, I'll give you a simple example. There's a brand new make of car. Let's make up a name. Let's say a car called Ramadan. All right, car called Ramadan. That is a new brand. None of us have seen that car ever. We know there's an Audi, there's a BMW, there's a Mercedes, there's a Hyundai, there's a Toyota, isn't it? There's all these makes. But I tell you, there's a car brand known as Ramadan. You haven't heard of it. If I tell you to fathom it as much as you could, the only thing you and I can fathom is that either that car has 4 wheels, maybe 4 doors, and a boot, and then it has a bonnet, and maybe has a windscreen, and some windows around. That's it. How it looks like, none of us have any idea. True or false? That's how it works. So when Rasulullah ﷺ was receiving this surah, he had no idea of anything. Hence Allah told him that this is knowledge of the unseen which I am unraveling to you. So bear in mind this, that you need to remember. Mention this, Ya Rasulullah, as you move on to the Sahaba. The Sahaba wanted a story. This is how it begins. When Yusuf alayhi salam told his father. Now lesson number 1. What was the relation between Yusuf alayhi salam and his father? The relationship between Yusuf alayhi salam and his father was a loving one. Not a dictatorship one. Not a commanding, ruthless one. No. We think that guiding our children is literally using the hard way. Actually, in the world that we live in today, you try to use the hard way, you're going to lose each one of them. You and I know that. And you don't need to be told. It's always the system against you. That's how it's going to work. But the more loving you are, the more closer your children will be to you. That is a blessing in itself. That which we look at as a problem actually is a blessing in disguise. I'll tell you why. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, isn't he the same one who loved his grandsons to a level where that when they would climb on him in salah, the Sahaba would have to wait until Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes from sujood, and then they follow the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Would Rasulullah do that only because there's a child on top of him and maybe that child will be hurt? No. Actually, that grandson who was on top of him was for the purpose, he did that so that the grandson can feel at ease and comfortable. It did stop there? No. Beyond that, he would literally do what? Piggybacks with his grandchildren. That is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would play piggybacks with his grandchildren while he was old. Think about it. At that age, playing piggyback with his children. Come on. Us as fathers today are not willing to do that. Then how would you expect that child to confide in you? That child will never confide in you. And many of our children today, they see things, they hear things, they experience things which none of them have any idea of how to share them, because we are not giving them the opportunity. Do you think that they would automatically and naturally come to you? That's not how we are by human nature. We keep things within ourselves and we die and we are left to be buried with them. That's the reality of it. How many of you have secrets which you cannot share with your own spouses? All of us. Your spouses have secrets which they cannot share with you. Your children have secrets which majority of them they will never share with us. But maybe they can share some of those major secrets with their close friends and members that they have around them, which they have comfortability with them and they can confide in them. Let me tell you this. Yusuf alayhi salam, the moment he woke up, the first thing that he did, rather than looking for any other means, he ran to his father. What made him do that? As a natural instinct, because he can only confide within his father. He believed there's no one else I can rely on but my father. He's my protection, he's my secret keeper, he's my friend, and he's the only person that I can talk to. Now what is proof to that? Yusuf alayhi salam tells his father, look, Dad, my beloved father, because he used in Arabic, the ulama say, if you look at I'rab al-Quran lin-Nuhas, they say that the ya abi, ab, and the Arabs are here. You're Moroccan, isn't it? He understands clearly. Look, Sidi, this is how it works. Abi is natural. Like basically, oh my father. The moment you say ya abati, there's another element of rifq, of love in it. You say, oh my beloved father. My honorable father. Any of those that you want to use. English cannot translate it. But it means that you are humble enough, that you love your father, and you are showing your father his position. So Yusuf alayhi salam started with that, not because he only respects his father, but he loves his father deeply. And he starts with that, oh my beloved father, I saw in my dream 11 stars. And on top of that, I saw the sun and the moon, but each one of them, they're doing sujood to me. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala on the Quran, He was trying to tell us something. In Arabic, there's something called pronouns. For anyone who wants to take notes, there's something called pronouns, inshallah. And I don't know if we're going to cover that in the mosque, Arabic and that, because it's too deep. Only people that have patience will stay behind. Some people, we start classes here, we say there's Arabic classes, 50, mashallah, the whole masjid from here to there is full. And actually, they're even free even as well. But then after 1, 2, 3, even 4 classes pushing it, the 5th class, you'll only find a line in the masjid. Only one line. These people wanted to learn Arabic. Come on, seriously. Normally when you use objects that لِغَيْرِ الْعَاقِلِ, that do not have a mind, you do not use the ضمائر which relate to men, basically human beings, those لِلْعَاقِلِ, which have intellects. Understood? So there are pronouns which are specific for human beings, and there are pronouns which are otherwise, which are not for human beings, are for animals and objects. Understood? What's the difference between an animal and a human being? We are all animalistic. We have blood, we have flesh. They have blood, we have flesh. But we have a brain, they don't. Understood? We have hair, they have hair. But the difference between us, Allah created us in a beautiful form and gave us an intellect, which separated us from other beings. That might not make sense. But there's a science called logic. If you read logic in Arabic, go to Al-Azhar University, go to other universities, they teach this. In order for you to understand how this deen works, you need to study this as well. These were sciences that were not needed before, but now we need it. That's the only way you can safeguard this deen. When people did not understand this science, majority of them failed to understand the deen, hence we are in this position today. I'm being honest. These are depths which I don't want to go into, but I'll tell you this. The dhama'ir, the pronouns that were used in the surah or in this verse, they were related to human beings. This told the Sahaba something. Oh, so that means Allah is not talking about objects then. He's not talking about the stars physically. Or he's not talking about the sun and the moon. He's actually talking about human beings. So what was he referring to? Now the surah will come and explain. We said that this is just a what? What part of the surah is it? Come on guys. Thesis. Barakallahu feek. I think I'm going to have to start putting chocolates over here. And then after Ramadan I'll give it to you, not now. All right. Listen. When Allah opened the thesis, the Sahabas were patient enough to wait. Okay, Ya Rasulullah, you're telling us then that means it's human beings. So metaphorically, Yusuf alayhi salam saw in his dream that there were stars and there are the sun and the moon. What does that mean? For you, majority of you know, you've heard of this story so many times. It's not new. So you know that the stars are the family, the brothers, and then the sun is the father, and the moon is the sun is the mother, and the moon is the father. Like that. The moon is the father, and the sun is the mother. Hakada. Simply put. The Qamar is Yaqub. Shams is the mother of Yusuf, and then the other ones are the brothers. But the Sahaba did not understand it that way. Immediately when Yusuf alayhi salam narrated this to his father, the next lesson that comes in is this, which Surah Yusuf now is going to start explaining it. He said, Ya bunay, in return, my beloved son. Yabni, if you say Yabni, that means, oh my son, simply. But the moment you say Ya bunay, as Luqman alayhi salam used it in Surah Luqman, Luqman is not alayhi salam, sorry. Luqman al-Hakim, when he used it in the surah, you notice that he was addressing his son in the most loving way, so that his son can pay attention. You notice that sometimes when you are aggressive to the children, that's when they become more tantrumatic. They throw more tantrum. Or they do something and sneak behind your back. But the more open you want them to be is when you are close to them and you show them this is wrong, this is right, simply put. And then you sit down with them with love. But of course, there are some places that they shouldn't cross. That's how it works. It doesn't mean that you go out there and you start loving them, you shower them with chocolate and you literally give them a bath with milk. That's not what you do. All right, there are places that they shouldn't cross the line, of course. That's how it works. But his father told him, Ya bunay, my beloved son, I'm telling you this out of love. I'm not telling you this as a command. I'm telling you this out of love, and you have to listen to me. La taqsus ru'yak. Do not ever relate this dream of yours ala ikhwatik, upon your brothers. Please don't. فَيَكِيدُوا لَكَ كَيْدًا, that they will come then and plot against you an evil plot. That's how it's going to work. إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لِلْإِنسَانِ عَدُوٌ مُبِينٌ. Why didn't Yaqub alayhi salam directly tell his son that your brothers will be misguided and they will take the wrong way? But in fact, Yaqub alayhi salam instead told him, mankind is, his greatest enemy is shaitan. Mankind. He didn't use the brothers. He said, Al-insan hada aduwuhu al-akbar man wa aduwuhu al-mubin man al-shaitan. His manifest shaitan and his manifest enemy and his greatest enemy is shaitan. There's no other enemy that they have. It's only shaitan. That's how it works. The reason being is because Yaqub knew that these sons of his, they were not at fault. They were literally human beings just like you and I. And each one of us make mistakes. Which means to say, you do not neglect the human being themselves, but you literally turn away from the evil that they've done. You do not neglect the Hassan, or you do not neglect Umar, or Zainab or Fatima. They do not have the problem. Naturally, they are good people. Allah created us with good instincts, bear that in mind, with good character. Adam alayhi salam, before he knew anything, when Iblis went and did what? Deluded him, gave him false promises, and then he did what Iblis wanted and failed to listen to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, and he didn't realize the first thing that happened when his clothes were removed from him, what did he do? He sought means to cover himself, isn't it? Naturally, that's the first thing he did. That shows you and I that human beings are naturally what? People of morals and ethics. But shaitan is the one that comes and teaches them to do what? To abandon morals and ethics. To become moralless, ethicless. To follow paths that they shouldn't. When our children today do what is wrong, it doesn't mean that they are evil people. No, that's not what it means. They do not understand. And maybe they have failed to understand at the moment. But later on, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala might guide them. Bear that in mind. That's how it works. لذلك Yaqub alayhi salam did not refer to the children directly. So we do not refer to people that they are evil. But it doesn't mean if their actions are wrong, then you justify by saying that they're all right, then they're fine. No. You say that they are good people, but they have a problem. It's wrong, it doesn't matter. Hence, when you look at the Sahaba's problems when they had after the death of Uthman ibn Affan, how many of you know about about the fitan that happened? None of you? Uthman ibn Affan was murdered, isn't it? You know about that, isn't it? Uthman ibn Affan was murdered. Umar ibn Khattab was murdered. But Umar ibn Khattab's murderer was not from among his own people. Was a Majusi from among the people that weren't even part of Medina. Basically, wasn't a citizen of Medina either. He just came in with a visa to work. Bear that in mind. In today's terms, simply put. But the one who murdered Uthman was a man literally in the crew of the Sahabas. Simply put. They deviated and decided to do what? Murder Uthman. When they murdered Uthman, the Sahabas demanding the blood of Uthman to be paid and all of that, they what? They clashed. Now, do we look at their clash and say that they had a problem? If you do that, you're sinful. لذلك قال العلماء وما جرى من حربهم مؤول وما جرى بين الصحاب نسكت. Whatever happened between the Sahaba, we remain silent, because what they have done is far greater than the little of what they made as a mistake, because that mistake does not count. That's when you learn this lesson. You don't take a human being and make them evil, but you take the deed of what they've done and make it evil. So Allah was trying to set an image over here to show you, look, the brothers were not evil, but they made a mistake. The brothers didn't have a problem, but they made a mistake. Hence he used these words. When they are used in the Quran, they are used precisely. Ikhwa, bear this in mind. When Allah uses words in the Quran, Allah places it in the right order. Not like you and I. When I speak right now, I'm speaking and I will make a mistake. And someone can take my words out of context. I promise you. Anyone would decide to refute me tomorrow. Lakin, no one can refute the Quran. Whether we like it, whether we don't like it. The Quran is precisely designed the way it is, with the best of designers. Inna shaytana lil insani aduwwun mubin. So we need to set parameters over here. Hence you see me repeating it a lot. Are the brothers evil? No. They made a mistake? Yes. Hence Yaqub said that shaitan is the most manifest enemy to whom? To man. Which means to tell Yusuf alayhi salam, don't look at your brothers as evil people, but actually shaitan might misguide them. So Allah was trying to set another image in the thesis. Then now, to complete it, which will literally cover now the remainder, the second half of the surah, and complete the whole surah, is this third verse. وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ. And then Allah, now Yaqub alayhi salam is telling whom? His son. And Allah then will choose you. Now let me tell you this. In the Quran, Allah uses for Maryam alayhi salam, وَإِذْ قَالَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ, and consider the case of when the angel said to Maryam alayhi salam, Inna Allah, indeed Allah istafak. Allah chose you. Now if you look at the word in a sathi understanding, istifa and ijtiba, they mean the same thing, being chosen. But there's a difference. The word yujba, مثلا, yujba ilayhi thamaratu kulli shay'in rizqan min ladunna. Yujba, brought to them, like that. Understood? Lakin at the same time, the word istifa comes from the word safa. What does that mean, safa? Safa means purity, which means Allah is saying He purely chose Maryam alayhi salam to be the mother of Isa. It's the only pure woman that can be the mother of Isa. No other woman can be the mother of Isa, no. So she was the only pure woman capable of carrying Isa alayhi salam. Hence Allah precisely used the word istafaki. Allah purely chose you. But over here, there was no condition. When Allah used the word ijtiba for Yusuf alayhi salam, there's no such condition as there's a reason why Allah chose you. No. Allah chose you because He wanted you to be that person. Hence Allah says in Surah Al-Hajj, Huwa jtabakum. He is the one that chose you. Who is the you referred over here? You and I. When Allah chose us to be Muslims, not that because we had a good lineage, or we come from a family of Muslims, or because we have this. No, Allah merely chose us because He wanted us to be Muslim. There's no other reason. There's no lineage, there's no wealth, there's no status, there's nothing. Allah wanted you to become Muslim, you be Muslim. Khalas, that's it. Story finished. Understood? The word ijtiba, that's what it means. Hence, Yaqub alayhi salam told his son, look, you wouldn't have a choice on this. As long as Allah chose you, this is going to be your path. Meaning to say, Allah chose you for this, you're going to live this path. So whether you're going to like this path, alhamdulillah, or you're not going to like it, then fasabrun jameel. Be patient. This is going to be your path, oh my son. وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ. Allah chose you. Understood? Your master chose you. But then on top of that, Allah will give you this. After He knew that now you're the person to take this, whether you're going to like it, whether you're not going to like it, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be easy, you're going to take the journey. This is what He's going to do for you. وَيُعَلِّمُكَ. He's going to teach you. Now, the problem with us in this modern era, we try to separate knowledge. We say that this knowledge is not the same as this. Basically, we mean to say there's secular knowledge and there is knowledge that is divine knowledge, Sharia knowledge. Actually, there's no such thing as secular knowledge. Let me tell you this. There is no such thing as secular knowledge. Secular knowledge, just because we take our children to school and we say that they're going to learn secular knowledge, haram alayk. There's no such thing as secular knowledge. Your child goes to school to become literate. They learn English if they can learn English to guide themselves at home and also use that English to make someone else's life easier. Have they helped or not? What is Islam all about? Helping, caring, sharing, guiding, doing what is right, forbidding that which is evil. Alaysa kadhalik. Basically, Islam is all about morals and ethics. If that's the way that you guide people, you need the means to do so. They go to school, they learn English, they will serve each other. They learn maths, they can do that to serve the other one. They learn engineering, they learn this, they learn that. All of those can serve mankind. Understand that. A knowledge that Allah, every knowledge that we have today, Allah is the one that taught man. When Adam alayhi salam was, one of the interpretations that the ulama, Tafsir ibn Kathir, if you look at it, Tafsir al-Quran al-Azim, he explains clearly this. When Allah mentioned the type of knowledge that Adam alayhi salam was taught, one of the interpretations was that Adam alayhi salam was not taught that Allah said this, Allah said that. No. But actually Adam was given the knowledge of this is a bowl, this is a plate, this is Adam, this is Hassan, this is Umar, and this is Fatima. Understood? Is that very clear? So knowledge is not limited to say that this is the maka'id of shaitan. I'll tell you. These are among the plots of shaitan. On earth today, the plots of shaitan have literally prevailed. Hence, we are suffering today. Our children do not know. The knowledge I have, can I serve the ummah? They always think for me to serve the ummah, I have to be an imam. For me to serve mankind at large, I have to be a sheikh. I have to be a teacher. Yes, those are great positions to be in. But what about the rest of the other Sahaba? Khalid ibn al-Walid was a commander of an army. Abdullah ibn Umar, he is remembered not only for his knowledge, but mainly, not even knowledge, he is remembered for his karam, his nobility. He used to give a lot. He was a rich man that took care of the orphans, a rich man that took care of the needy. He wouldn't even eat his food, but he would give it out in charity. Think about it. Do we dismiss them? Was Uthman ibn Affan known because he was knowledgeable of, let's say, Sharia and order? Of course, yes. But do we know Uthman as a Khalifa more, or do we know Uthman as a scholar more? As a Khalifa. Because he was a very good leader. Sah? Which means to tell you, all of these are knowledge that Allah has given mankind for them to build themselves. So do not separate between this knowledge and that knowledge. So you need to understand that as well. So when Allah was mentioning here that Yaqub alayhi salam was telling his son that Allah will teach you, is it knowledge of Sharia? No. Allah was going to teach him knowledge of interpreting dreams. Understood? So you cannot separate interpreting dreams as a knowledge and say that this is not knowledge of Sharia, we don't need it. Every knowledge that can serve man is knowledge that is required for man to survive. Because without that knowledge, mankind will never survive. Without a roof on our head, we'll never survive. Without a car, we cannot reach our destination. Especially in the world we live in today. Without roads, if there are no people that can build the roads, without that knowledge, we're not going to have roads to drive our cars. That's how it's going to work, I promise you. But also, if we do not have scholars, we cannot hold on to the people together. Because scholars are leaders. And not everyone should be a leader in this field. But actually, you should be a leader in your field. Understood? So Allah was telling us over here that the knowledge that He would give to Yusuf alayhi salam, Yaqub was telling his son, is the knowledge of interpreting dreams. Okay? After that, was there other knowledge than that? No. He just mentioned that, khalas, that's it. Then He told him, وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ. Then Allah will complete His blessings upon you, just like how He completed it upon His fathers, Ibrahim and Ishaq. Understood? Ibrahim and Ishaq. The fathers of whom? Yaqub, not his fathers. Basically his grandfathers, the grandfathers of Yusuf alayhi salam. Because they were prophets, and Allah will make him a prophet, just like how they were prophets, and he comes from a family of prophets. Hence Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala wanted him to live in that position. I'll conclude here before I even go on, inshallah ta'ala, and I'll try to cover the rest for next week. But I just want us to go back a little bit and leave with what we need so that we can move on, inshallah. Understood? Yusuf alayhi salam, among the blessings that Allah will complete for him is what? Being a prophet. Bear that in mind. We're going to reverse this. Understood? Number one. Number two, Allah will teach him, as Yaqub told him, alayhi salam, his own father. What knowledge? The knowledge of interpreting dreams. Isn't it? Now, not everyone can interpret dreams. Only people that Allah has chosen. Is it a knowledge that you can learn in books? No. It's the knowledge that comes from Allah directly. So if you find someone that can interpret dreams, that person, Allah has given them knowledge of divine which no one else can have. Understood? That's why there's a correlation between this knowledge and the fact that, now point number 3, that Allah told Yusuf alayhi salam through Yaqub what? That Allah will choose you. Understood? 3 things. Allah chose Yusuf. Did Yusuf want to be chosen? No. Number 1. Yusuf was taught the interpretation of dream. Is there any way that he could learn it through any other means besides from Allah? No. Which means Allah chose him, number 1, and directly gave him knowledge that nobody else can have. Understood? That was specific for him. Number 2. Number 3, Allah will make him a prophet. This sets the image of the entire what? Surah. But other 2 points which I want to make it as 5, I want you to leave with. That's why I'm telling you I'm going to reverse this. Before we go to the very beginning, the second point after these 3, basically 5, 4, 3, then 2, right? Is that the correct way? Or is it 5, 1, 2, 3? How is it? 5, then 4, then? So we've covered 5, 4, and 3, right? Now we're going to 2. Number 2 is, Allah is saying what? Telling Yusuf alayhi salam. Yaqub is telling his son what? Do not narrate this in dream of yours to whom? Your brothers. Because if your brothers catch wind, some enmity might happen within them, some jealousy, and they would do what? They might attack you. Are they at fault? No. They're human beings as well. Understood? And they falter as well. That's what happens. So Allah is trying to set for us what? An image of what's going to happen. And then the last of what we have on top is what? That the conclusion of the entire story is that these people are going to come and do sujood to you. What's the wisdom behind it? Why would Yaqub alayhi salam explain this to his son? And why would Allah teach us all of this? To conclude with, if anything you want to leave with, even if you don't remember these 5 things that I've mentioned, and I'm going to ask you perhaps next week, what are the 5 things that we mentioned? Allah is showing us, for Allah to make you a great person, to be a person worthy of a position that you are supposed to be in, Allah will definitely test you left, right and center. That's how it's going to work. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ Allah will put khawf and fear in you. Yusuf alayhi salam, he faced it, experienced it. And not only khawf, lakin ju', hunger. Yusuf alayhi salam was left alone. وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ You would have a decrease of wealth. And also al-anfus, and at the same time, loss of lives. وَالثَّمَرَاتِ And also from the fruits that you've been able to put together and gather, you're going to lose even those as well. Yusuf alayhi salam, Allah was telling him, yes, these people are going to come to do sujood to you. He doesn't even know what it means. He only saw stars, the sun and the moon coming to do sujood to him, but he, according to what he understood, all right, there are human beings that are going to come do this, but who are they? How is it going to work? He doesn't know. All right? But in order for Allah to give him that position, for him to be worthy of the position, these people that are going to do sujood to him have to see him worthy of it first. For example, mathalan, if your people today neglect you, simply put, or they despise you, they don't see you to be worthy of anything, and you understand that, but then you work hard on something so hard that you come to a stage where now they are jealous, they come to a stage where now they feel, okay, we cannot compete with this man anymore. Khalas, that's it. What happens then? They submit. Isn't it? They submit. And Allah wanted Yusuf alayhi salam, the moral of the entire thesis that we've set over here, wanted Yusuf alayhi salam to understand, yes, you're going to get all of these blessings, and Allah has chosen you for it. But in order for them to see you worthy, and for you to be worthy of the position, and to fulfill your purpose, you need to go through these marahil, these stages. Suffering, ease, experiences, and all of that. Hence Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala concluded the verse by saying what? Inna rabbaka alimun hakim. In Surah Al-A'raf, Allah always say, and even in other surahs, in Surah Al-Dhariyat, always Allah says, Innahu huwal hakimul alim. Listen carefully, hakimul alim. Inna rabbaka hakimun alim. Innahu hakimun alim. Basically, Allah starts with judgment and wisdom, and then He mentions knowledge. But when He came to Surah Yusuf, Allah doesn't start that way. Allah goes as knowledge first, and then hikmah. Judgment and wisdom. Why does Allah have to do that? What's different about Yusuf alayhi salam that Allah doesn't start with wisdom and judgment, but He starts with knowledge first? 2 reasons. He's related to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam directly, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that I have knowledge which you do not have. That's why He started with knowledge. And second of all, He's telling Yusuf alayhi salam, in order for you to prevail, you're going to start with knowledge. It starts with knowledge first. That's how it works. But what knowledge? Experience. You're going to suffer through these experiences. But then that will be tied together with what? The next thing that comes immediately is wisdom and judgment. That's how it works. Because in other places, Allah takes the reins Himself. But over here, He's referring to the reins of Yusuf alayhi salam. In order for Yusuf to be wise and be the right judge to judge things, he has to have knowledge first. There are other pieces of the Quran that I don't want to get into, because if I go further, we're not going to finish. I promise you. Because there's Surah Jum'ah, I can relate to you. Why am I saying this? And there's also Surah Ali Imran, and also Surah Al-Baqarah. If I combine these 3, it's another half an hour. I'm not going to do that. And if we're going to go through it, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to go through it perhaps next week, for you to understand why Allah starts with alim, first knowledge, and then He goes with hikmah, judgment and wisdom. Bear that in mind. This is how it works. Knowledge first, then wisdom comes second. But when Allah mentions judgment and then knowledge, it means that Allah is much more wiser, and He is the one that judges first. So everything are in his reigns. But over here, he's referring to a human being. The experiences of human beings are not going to be similar to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Allah's judgment comes first. Then he provides you the knowledge. If Allah gives you a ruling, you abide. And then he teaches you why. But then when it comes to a human being, you need to learn first. And then use it wisely. Understood? When Allah tells you pray, pray first. And then ask, why do I have to pray? Don't come and say, why do I have to pray? Like the modern day today, kids when they come to you, before they even pray, why do I have to do it? There's a lot of whys at home. I don't know if many of you have experienced this with 6-year-old kids, 7-year-old kids. You tell them something, why? Why do I have to do it? You tell them why, they will ask you from that why answer, they will tell you why. And then you answer that, then they'll ask you why. And it's going to go on as why. I normally say, when they ask me why, I tell them Z. Simply put. They say why, I say Z. And then I tell them start from the beginning, A, B, C, D, like that. Understood? So ikhwah, take this from you, 5 pieces. A dream that he saw. His father tells him, you're going to go through the experience of your brothers, so don't narrate it to them. And then he tells them, look, after your brothers, you're going to go through this and this and this. 3 points. Allah will choose him, Allah will give him knowledge, and Allah will complete the ni'mah of choosing him, just like how he chose his forefathers. Understood? That's the whole story of Surah Yusuf. We haven't gone to the Seerah yet because we don't need it. From next week, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to mention exactly about the brothers now, bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. Even if we cannot finish off the brothers, we're going to mention some important elements which you and I can relate in our lives and lessons that we can take out of that, bi'idhnillah. And then go back now to the Seerah. Because once the brothers start, their story begins, the Seerah now starts coming in, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Some of you I know want to go. Some of you perhaps might have questions. We can only open a window for 2 questions and leave. If you don't have questions, that will be better for me. No question? Barakallah. Yes. Yes. There are people here. Because this is knowledge that Allah gives to the one whom He chooses. I'll tell you this, ikhwah. For anyone that wants to leave, inshallah, they can leave. I'm just going to answer the question, yeah? I'll tell you this, brothers. My experience, I'll tell you. I've sat with 2 people. I've sat with a sheikh that has to learn from the books. Understand me this. In order for him to be that much of a sheikh, he learns through the books. And I've also sat with a sheikh that he naturally speaks knowledge. He doesn't need to read. He reads less, but he knows more. Do you understand what I mean? It means that there is ilmun kasbi and there is ilmun laduni. What does that mean? There is knowledge that you have to attain. And there is knowledge that is literally just from Allah. Now does that mean that person is so righteous? There are righteous people that don't have knowledge, which they should have. But then there are people that they are just average men like you and I, but they have knowledge which even the righteous one doesn't have. So it's something that Allah gives man whom He desires to give. It's not about whether they're righteous or not, or knowledgeable or not. He only gives it to the one whom He wants, inshallah. That's how Allah works. Inshallah. I hope that answers the question. Yeah. This is a very sensitive topic. I'll tell you. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, and I know you. Huh? Yes. Yes. Prophets were given this. Prophets were given this as a blessing. So because Fatima alayhi salam, she not only does she come from the lineage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but beyond that, Allah gave her a piece of that. Understood? Ali ibn Abi Talib, within him he had knowledge which none of the Sahabas had. Umar ibn al-Khattab, he was known as the fountain of knowledge. Was it because Umar studied so much? No. It's natural that came in him. Do you get what I mean? But nowadays, this deen is literally mixed with right and wrong and distorted so much that it's extremely difficult for people to see eye to eye. with things, to see through that lens which we should see. Understood? So it's difficult for one to say, okay, this one Allah has blessed him, this one is a liar, this one is this. It's very difficult. But we need to ask Allah. That's why I said we need to hold on to the rope of Allah and do a lot of dua for Allah to guide us to the right people so that we can see the middle path. And when that happens, wallahi, it's as if there was a veil on your eyes and Allah as if He lifted it. It literally is in the mind. We cannot experience it until Allah decides to lift it, and you find it's like a big burden Allah moved from you, that now you can see things which you did not expect to see in your life. But that only comes with a lot of dua. It doesn't come with so much knowledge. No, it comes with a lot of dua. That's the truth. Any other question? I hope that helps. I hope it helps. Inshallah. No more questions? Jazakumullah khairan. Inshallah.